read your paper. Every time you look at a journal website, you'll see the abstract, then you'll see a little button beside it saying buy full paper. Now most of you will have subscriptions via your university or the university to understand. So this author has an advantage. They can really get this, set of authors actually, they can really get this abstract sorted out in, the introduction sorted out in just one line. Okay, not everyone can do that. You might take 2 or 3 lines, but the point is to always make sure that only the relevant information is there, because a person is not reading your abstract to understand the field. They are reading your abstract to understand your study and understand whether it's worth reading your study. Okay, so we don't need to be human encyclopedias trying to pour everything onto the page. We just need to get down the minimum that's required to get people into the most important part of the study. And the most important part of the study is moving on to, the abstract is moving on to evaluating the method and the results. Okay, so the takeaway from this is condense to communicate. It's very simple. Just make it brief. The easiest thing to read is the briefest thing to write. So that's background noise, or eliminating background noise. Now let's move on to ensuring readability. You all use specialist language. I understand that at AH Editing we deal with it every day. We go to great pains to make sure that we don't remove or in otherwise what you might call injure specialist language. But there's a key point here that can limit the appeal of an abstract. Okay, this is particularly true in high-impact journals. I'm just skipping ahead a bit here. High-impact journals, I'll just give a few examples. For Nature, say, or Science, and generally in the scientific press, medical press, British Medical Journal, The Lancet, New England Journal of Medicine. All of those journals require writers to write for a broad audience because they're interdisciplinary. Okay, and as academics, you'll know that interdisciplinarity is a key feature. A key feature of modern academic life. It's something that has to happen. I mean, even in relatively clearly defined fields, multidisciplinarity has become very important because it provides new results. It helps break old boundaries. This is what publishers are trying to achieve. This is what journal editors are trying to achieve in high-impact journals. And there are very few higher-impact journals than Nature or Science. I mean, Nature in particular. They understand that specialist language takes a lot of thought. This is really critical when you're reading an abstract, even for a person familiar with a term. If it's used slightly inappropriately or slightly out of context, it jars the reader. And your reader only might give your abstract a quick glance. You've read many abstracts yourself. For any research project, if you're doing a literature review, or even if you're just reading for personal interest, you will go through hundreds of abstracts trying to chase down a particular topic, or at least tens. If you add them up over a career or even over a year, you will find that they're a phenomenal amount, and no person has enough time to read them all if they're not immediately relevant. So, making the paper readable. Now, this is not an example that I will give you, so what you might call an answer to. This is a warning, in a sense. Consider this description from a biology abstract. Now, you just know that I'm going to mispronounce this word. Okay, Sylvilagius natella is a semi-arboreal lagomorph. I might have mispronounced them all except Isa. Okay, here's an alternative. The mountain cottontail, with the name in brackets, is a tree-climbing rabbit. You could even have Sylvilagius natella is a tree-climbing rabbit, or a semi-tree-climbing rabbit. Any way you want to put it is going to be better in a high-impact journal abstract, which is what everyone's looking for, than really highly specialized language. As I said, highly specialized language takes a fair bit of cognitive power to process. I mean, you are not talking down to your audience if you use the term tree climbing. You are helping them get through the abstract. Okay, and this is actually an introduction to an abstract again. So the point here, the takeaway is your readers might not be your peers. Okay, most of us presume that our readers are our peers, but in the higher impact journals, and even in some of the lower impact journals, journals that might be high impact in the field but not overall, there are a lot of people reading it that aren't your peers, aren't your immediate peers, might be very close to your field of work but don't know exactly everything, you know, all the details or all the terminology. Give them a hand, help them out, make the abstract a bit more readable. And this doesn't apply to the paper, remember. This is the abstract. The abstract advertises why a person should read your paper. Highlighting value, the third point. This is a warning. In a final sentence, the final sentence in an abstract matters. I can't give you a definitive description of how an abstract should end because everyone ends it differently. It's a matter of personal preference. But it should be strong. The last sentence should not be a descriptive afterthought. Many times I have read something like this. This is the last sentence in an abstract. This is an abstract about the state of the Chinese social sciences, mainland Chinese social sciences. Okay, and it says, in the discussion section, we explore reasons that may cause the current stagnation and provide policy recommendations. That, to me, says that these people aren't confident with their findings. They're hiding their findings. They haven't mentioned them. What they actually did through the abstract was go through and say, in the introduction we say this, in the methods we do this, and in the discussion section we do that, all in general terms, nothing specific, all in general terms. What we need to do is focus on why our finding matters. Highlight your findings, not the paper. The paper is there to be read afterwards. If you highlight the paper, you know what you're saying to the journal editor, you know what you're saying to your peers. I couldn't be bothered writing an abstract. I cut and pasted it from the introduction. And sometimes it works the other way, so people cut and paste the abstract into the introduction. So, in a sense, as I said, that's a warning. Make sure that the value of your findings are the last thing on a person's mind. There was also, I think it was the Times Higher Education, what used to be the Higher Education Supplement, had a survey of scientists reading papers recently. And one of them said, well, look, this is what I do and most of my peers do. We look at the title, think, yep, that seems right for me. Then we look at the last sentence of the abstract to see what the value of the findings are. If that is okay, I move on to read the paper. I read on to move the rest of the abstract and then the paper. So in a sense, the final sentence in your abstract is the gatekeeper. It's the thing that let people in. And if it's a boring or if it's a final sentence that says just what they can read in the introduction anyway, it just describes the broad outline of the paper, then they have no information to go on. Your readers are lost to you. So really quickly summarize what I've just talked about. Your abstract, it really is much more than a summary. It has both academic and commercial implications, but it's all about making people read your paper. Okay. It doesn't follow that if you've got a good abstract, people will definitely read your paper, but it's a very good chance that they will. Limit the background to vital information. The rule of thumb that journal editors-in-chief come up with is that it should be no more than 50 words. Okay, that's between a fifth and a sixth of a big abstract. If you have a paper that is only has a 100-word abstract, well, that would only be about 20 words, one sentence. That's 7 words first sentence is from a very small abstract. Simple wording sells. It sells for you as an academic, getting people to read your paper, getting to understand the abstract really quickly so they can move on to the paper. Remember, no one spends much time reading these things. And the final thing is, don't undermine the value of your findings. Now, I'm just going to put my webcam back on. Here we are. I'll just make that a bit bigger as we have some questions and answers. I will turn on the microphones in just a moment. Just a slight problem there. Just a moment. There we go. Everyone's microphones are now on. Does anyone have any questions? Anyone?
No.
Okay, no, we don't have any questions this time. Well, I think the ultimate thing that we need to understand about papers is abstracts is something I said at the beginning. It's not about you. The abstract is about your readers. Actually, that's true of all papers, okay, all parts of the paper. But the abstract in particular is about your reader. It's about getting your reader's attention and making sure it sticks. Okay. Before we go, I'll just quickly go through our next webinar, which will be on the 24th of May. We'll be talking about a really intriguing subject, which is hooks, hooks and sinkers. Hooks are things that we'll be focusing on introductions. Hooks are things that just grab your reader's attention. They can be short lines, they can be little quotes, and we'll also be looking at the opposite, sinkers, dull strategies, things that we don't really, aren't really going to get you anyone's attention. And of course, we're looking forward to your company again next time around. So